She announced her pregnancy at a family dinner, saying the father came from royalty. Everyone raised their glasses, offering congratulations, while I had already checked his visa status. They said she was lucky, said she had crossed classes, said she chose the right life, and I stood there like the only one who could already see how it ended. My name is Lydia Cotter, a single mother running a small but steady restaurant in town. They see me as ordinary, maybe even a little unsuccessful. Nothing worth paying attention to, but none of them know I saw the collapse long before it ever actually began. She rested her hand on her stomach, leaning into him like she had already won everything. He smiled and nodded, describing his family in awkward English that didn't quite hold together. Land, power, inheritance, words chosen carefully, but not convincingly if you actually listened closely. They believed him without hesitation, but I watched his eyes move across the room constantly. Not admiration, not curiosity, but calculation. Measuring windows, furniture, paintings, anything with value. I didn't expose him this time, even though I had done exactly that in my previous life. Back then, I spent weeks digging into his identity, trying to find anything real about him. No royal lineage, just layers of temporary records, shifting identities, and visa extensions waiting approval. I told her everything I found, thinking truth would protect her from what was coming next. She called me jealous, said I couldn't accept her life becoming better than mine ever was. Later, I forced her to break things off, forced her to end the pregnancy, convinced I saved her. On a graduation day, she locked me inside a room and released gas slowly into the air. I collapsed on the floor while she stood outside, calm, watching, like it was something necessary. That was when I understood she wasn't ruined by him. She was taking revenge on me. So this time, I said nothing, didn't warn her, didn't try to stop anything unfolding anymore. I simply held her hand gently and said, "That's your choice," without any emotion behind it. She froze for a second, then smiled brighter, the kind of smile that believes it conquered everything. She thought I finally supported her, didn't realize I had simply stepped away completely. She started performing, entering the kitchen, cutting fruit, plating, everything, like she was hosting royalty. The year I broke my arm, she didn't even bring me water once without being asked twice. He sat on the couch, barely moving, watching her work like he expected everything to be done. "Bigger pieces," he said, frowning slightly, and she immediately redid everything without hesitation. New irritation, new resistance, just compliance, like she was pleasing a client she couldn't afford losing. I stood nearby, knife in hand, pausing for just a second longer than necessary. At dinner, he cleared entire plates, sauce still on his lips, while she wiped it gently. She said he usually had refined habits, said he just needed time adjusting to this environment. I said nothing, just lowered my head and continued eating while they fed each other casually. They laughed sweetly, performing love like an audience was always watching, always judging their story. I could smell him, something off, something unclean, sharp enough to linger longer than it should. I remembered the medical report from last time, the one I paid to fix quietly. She told the doctor it was my fault, blamed me for everything, without a second thought. That was when I understood she wasn't deceived. She was choosing to believe the illusion. After dinner, she sat beside me, voice softer, almost rehearsed to sound vulnerable and persuasive. "Mom, help us," she said, and I didn't move, didn't respond immediately or emotionally. "Sell the house," she continued. "Get us something better." Like it had already been decided. That wasn't a request. It was entitlement, something she believed she deserved without question. I smiled slightly and said, "Sure," watching her eyes light up with immediate expectation and relief. "Then take the mortgage too," I added, placing the financial statements directly in front of her. Every expense was listed clearly. Tuition, living costs, everything she had quietly taken for granted. Her face slowly hardened, shifting from confidence to something colder, something defensive and angry. "Enough," she whispered, then snapped louder. "You just don't want me to win in life." People around us started siding with her, murmuring agreement like they already chose a position. "She deserves better," someone said. "You're holding her back, like I was the problem." They looked at me like I was controlling, like I was the reason she couldn't succeed. I didn't explain anything, didn't defend myself, just stayed silent and let them believe it. After that day, she cut contact completely while I sold the house and moved assets quietly. I invested, signed contracts, built something stable while they assumed I had already failed. Her life started collapsing. Hospital visits, miscarriage, infection, surgery, everything happening too fast. She argued in hospital hallways, insisting he matters, while doctors remained quietly unconvinced. Nurses whispered everyone understood what was happening except her, still clinging to the illusion. She came back to me eventually, kneeling outside my door, voice breaking, asking for money. Her clothes were worn, hair unkempt, her eyes already showing cracks I recognized too well. She wasn't the same person anymore, not the girl I once believed I could protect. I didn't help her up. Instead, I sent people to collect the debts she had accumulated. Men knocked loudly on her door, and for the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. Still, she went back to him, because without that fantasy, she had absolutely nothing left. Later, she brought an older man to meet me, someone calculating, speaking about future security. She leaned close and whispered, "Just do this for me," like I still owed her something. That was the moment I fully understood she wasn't a child anymore. She was a liability. I handed her documents, debt agreements, and she broke down immediately, voice shaken uncontrollably. That day, we severed everything, and she said, "You wasted my life," before walking away. I closed the door and, for the first time, felt something close to relief and clarity. Years later, I became a hotel shareholder, stepping into management, building something entirely mine. She was dancing in nightclubs, bright lights, loud music, collecting money for survival and illusions. She posted online constantly, claiming she was about to enter high society, convincing herself loudly. People mocked her in comments, but she doubled down, needing to believe her own narrative. At her wedding, cheap dress, harsh lighting, barely anyone attending, she saw me and smiled. "See, I made it," she said, like she needed me to confirm it was real. I didn't respond, just raised my glass quietly while a manager approached and addressed me. "Miss Carter," he said, and the entire room fell silent as attention shifted instantly. She froze, then lost control, shouting, "She's nobody," voice sharp, almost desperate for validation. She got everything from men. She screamed louder, while everyone around her stayed completely silent. I stepped forward and slapped her. Not hard, but enough to cut through everything instantly. "Everything I have, I built," I said, calm/steady, leaving no room for denial anymore. She broke down, security escorted her out, the wedding collapsed into chaos within seconds. After that, she disappeared, and the last time I saw her was in another country entirely. She was sitting by the street, mere garbage, thin, cracked, skin, eyes empty and distant. She saw my car and ran toward it, voice hoarse, begging, "Mom, please take me back." I didn't step out, didn't feel anger or sympathy, just watched quietly without reacting. I left some cash and told the driver to leave while she kept chasing behind us. She fell, got up again, kept running, her voice fading into something almost unrecognizable. Later, someone told me she died. No records, no identity, no one knowing who she was. No one remembered what she once believed she could become or who she thought she was. And I was somewhere else, near the ocean, wearing sunglasses, holding a drink under sunlight. Someone asked me, "Do you regret it?" And I thought about it for a moment carefully. "She didn't lose everything," I said finally, calm, certain, without hesitation in my voice. "She traded it